All right. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Isla Vista Community Services District. I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded. And Jonathan, can you call the roll?
Yes. Oh, sorry, we've got some board members just joined. Let me add them into the waiting room. All right, Director Brandt.
Here.
Director Flaherty.
Here.
Director Bertrand.
Here.
Director Freeman.
Here.
Director Aguilar. Oh, he's just in the waiting room, just added him. Director Geis.
Here.
Director Dashler.
Director Dashler's here.
And Director Aguilar, you're here. We just did roll call.
Okay, we've got everyone here. So before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the Chumash people who are traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place, Anascoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue the tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. With that, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Do any directors have items that they wish to pull? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, the motion, is there a second?
A second.
Made by Bertrand, seconded by Flaherty. Is there any public comment on this motion? Any other board discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote.
Director Brandt.
Yes.
Flaherty.
Yes.
Bertrand.
Yes.
Geis.
Yes.
Aguilar.
Yes.
Freeman.
Yes.
Dashler.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Now we're going to move to the public comment period. This is the time where any member of the public may speak on any matter that is not on our agenda today. So if you are here for any agenda item that is on the agenda today, we will open up public comment for those items at that time. This is the time for any public comment not on the agenda. If you do have public comment, you can hit the raise hand button, or you can unmute and flag my attention. I see a comment from Olivia. Please go ahead, Olivia.
Hello. So I was emailing with Jonathan earlier today, but I'm a resident of Isla Vista, and I have noticed just a lot of litter in our streets, a lot of trash. And so I was talking with him about the Isla Vista beautification project, and how with the Isla Vista beautification project, if it would be helpful if there was more litter pickup. I know this is an ongoing thing. I was also talking with Christina, I believe. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that the streets of IV could use more help.
Thank you for your comments, Olivia. And I'm glad that you've been in touch with Jonathan and Christina, and I'm hoping you've been able to download the app and be able to report any issues that you might see. Glad to hear it. I
Yeah.
appreciate your perspective.
Yeah, I used the app today to report some of the large like dump sites and like piles. But just like in general, even where there aren't really large piles, there's just, always little bits of litter here and there that get blown away from dumpsters.
Absolutely. I see a hand from Director Bertrand. Go ahead, Ethan.
Yes, Olivia, thank you so much for bringing this to us tonight. I know a lot of us see this issue as well and definitely care a lot about it. And in this upcoming fiscal year budget, we are increasing some of the staffing for the Isla Vista Beautiful program to be able to handle issues just like this. So this is definitely a very timely item for you to bring forward, and we definitely want to help.
Thank you, Director Bertrand. Director Geis.
Hey, just a clarification on the IV Beautiful program. Do we pick up litter on private property, or do we only pick up litter on public property?
We pick up on public property, but sometimes it might be spilling from private onto like the sidewalk. So that could be something if it's on, half and half. But we wouldn't go onto a private lot and clean up their lot, which is another problem that happens, that overflowing dumpsters on private property.
Yeah, I took a walk with a friend down, I think we're on Del Playa, and I noticed some sides of the street that private property was just spectacularly kept. And then there were these other flowing dumpsters on private property that I said, oh, maybe we need to somehow say, can we regulate that? I think that's always a issue that Jay talked about, people turning in their dumpsters because it's expensive. So they put smaller dumpsters out, and then they don't have enough room. So I think it's just something to keep our eye on and maybe think about how do we cure that problem on private property. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that, Director Geis. I'll add one more thing that unfortunately, I think it's been my experience that we see an uptick in the amount of trash on the streets directly following the move-out season in early through mid-June, the entire month of June. And I know we've been able to put together the resource page to try and spread the word about the services that are available, including the large item pickup that Marburg does offer during that time period. But I'm hoping as we emerge from COVID that this is something that we can really put a lot of energy behind with our new community engagement director, so that we can really do an all-out public relations and organizing blitz in the community to let people know about how they can move out in a way that is sustainable, in a way that keeps our community clean, and try to minimize that in the future. So I really appreciate you bringing this issue to our attention, Olivia, because it's near and dear to our hearts. So thank you for speaking today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, are there any other members of the public that wish to comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda? Please hit the raise hand button or put something in the chat. Ash, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
That comment reminded me about IVRPD has a Measure O survey that you can fill out. So what that means is if you have input for what the parks should spend money on, you can do that. And one thing that's come up with that is better trash cans in the parks. So, but yeah, anything that you think, any input about how you'd like, your IV Parks money to be spent can be put in there. Thanks.
Thank you for that comment, Ash. Thank you for dropping the link. I see a hand from Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Hi, everyone. Wasn't going to share today, but since we're on the topic, I would, as usual, encourage the IVCSD to do anything in its power to try to encourage landlords and property rental companies to have pre-furnished apartments. I mean, we've started, I think landlords have started that process on their own. That like, if you look outside of Isla Vista, not every place has a fridge versus somewhere like Isla Vista, every unit does come from a fridge. So it can include other items of furniture as well. And so I would really hope that could be encouraged. The other thing I wanted to mention, and it's a bit out of the purview of the IVCSD, but I just wanted to voice a little bit of opposition for the Charles Munger housing project. I support the building of additional housing. I think that's incredibly important. I'm so glad that the renderings actually include windows, but I am deeply concerned of putting additional housing elements incredibly far away from campus. It's like we're building a second FT when there could actually be housing elements that are adjacent to Isla Vista that support the local small businesses, rather than having students have to DoorDash food, for an example, or be away. Basically, I think it just denigrates the fabric of our community to have students in separate, disparate locations rather than kind of centralized core hubs. And so I know it's a bit out of the purview, but I just wanted to express those feelings that are adjacent to the IVCSD. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Mark. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on anything not on our agenda today? All right, I'm not seeing any other hands or anything in the chat. So I'm going to close the public comment period and move to the first item on our agenda. This is Resolution 21-5, honoring the service of Director Robert Geis. I want to introduce this just for the public because we approved the consent agenda fairly quickly, and I want to make it clear that we accepted a letter of resignation effective tomorrow from Director Geis. Bob, you have been with the district since we were first formed in the year 2017. Back before we had a revenue source to provide services to the community, but a hefty mandate to accomplish so many different goals to improve Isla Vista. And we, I think, together as a district, went through a lot during your time on the board. I don't think that there is anyone that the County Board of Supervisors could have appointed that had your level of knowledge, expertise on financial and accounting systems to help us really get our feet off of the ground. And I know that I have received so much mentorship and care and advice, consultation from you that has really, really improved our community in very deep and tangible ways. And you've been giving so much of yourself since long before you were on our district as the auditor controller of our county, working not just with the CSD now, but with the Ivy Recreation and Park District when you were auditor. You really just have a spirit of public service that I, as an elected official, find very admirable. And I really just want to say, as we consider this resolution, honoring your time on our board, thank you. Thank you for everything that you have done for the district and for our community. And as I've told you privately, we're not going to let you scurry away so quickly. I know that myself, other board members, and our staff, Jonathan and Deborah, are going to continue to call on you for advice because you give so freely of your time and your knowledge. And I really deeply appreciate that. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Director Geis.
I just have a couple of comments when, I've been working around in IV for a long time, that I've cut my teeth on auditing Isla Vista Recreation and Park District when I was young. But I've worked now in county government, counting this appointment on this board for going on 40 years. And so just to let the board know, the only reason I'm leaving is because my wife retired a year ago. And we both worked through COVID. we helped our kids out through COVID by being a babysitter to a COVID baby, which was very enjoyable and very fun. But I've also enjoyed the elected and the appointed members of this board. I think it was really fun to work with everybody because I think we are all going in the right direction. Everybody was committed to improving the Isla Vista community. And when you do see improvement and you do have progress, to me, that's what gives me satisfaction on the board. And this started with I met with Ethan and Spencer, and they had this plan that they sat down with me, and I said, well, this is all a good idea for you two, but the most important thing for you to do is to graduate. So they were both in school way back then, and they both carried through with their education, which is important to all you guys that are on the board and still going to school. It's probably the most fun time of your life, and the most you'll get out a lot out of it. And I lived for a year in Isla Vista in 1978, and let me tell you, 40 years goes by really fast. So keep enjoying that place. And I enjoyed people like George Thurlow and Natalie and Christina and Father John and our attorney Ross, and that all your current board members, Marcos and Catherine and Kirsten, you guys are kind of new to me, but I already have learned from you guys more about the community, and you have really good perspective. So and last to Jonathan and Ross and Deborah, you guys have just been great. You're brilliant employees and doing a great job. So I'll end with that.
Thank you for that, Bob. Director Bertrand.
Yes, well, Bob, thank you just so much for everything you've done. We all knew that this day would come sometime, and we knew that it would be challenging when it did, but you've brought us to such a good place as a district, and you've been so committed to being a true partner and to doing some really bold and innovative things. When I think about all that you've taught us over the years, I first think about all the lessons from the Deming's management philosophy that you've told us about, and how we can really do things differently to make smart decisions and to not look like every other local government, and to question why we do things, to see what works, to try new things, but also to recognize that we can adjust as things go forward. And I really appreciate you challenging us to be innovative and to think outside of the box. That's been so cool. You've also really pushed us to set the bar high on so many things, and to really believe in ourselves and what we can accomplish. So just really want to thank you for that. You've been an incredible colleague to work with. As Spencer said, you've served the residents of Santa Barbara County for so long. You're someone that all of us look up to. And on a personal level, you've just been great to interact with over the years. And I know we'll still see each other around, and definitely look forward to bumping into you soon. But just thank you so much for everything.
Jonathan was working over at my house because he lost his connectivity to Finn, and so I bequeathed one of my Deming books to Jonathan. Said, you got to read this, especially the part about management and stuff. And so once he's done, he can pass it around. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Director Freeman.
It was somewhat of a shock, and to hear we're leaving, but at the same time, it was also not a shock, because I mean, we kind of dragged you out of retirement to come back in order to do this, and it's been really. I really have to thank you for having done that and have stuck with us for so long. There were many people in the community, both in general outside board and some of us on the board, who were concerned about the idea of starting up a new district with a bunch of people who, I mean, myself very much included, did not have much background in working on government and in managing all the finances that go into it, and it was always felt very comforting having you on the board and having all of that experience that you brought. And interestingly, and this is something that Ethan kind of touched on too, not experience that was dragged down into the feeling of, well, there's only one way to do it, but this feeling of, well, I did this for 25 years and in this way, and honestly, I learned the following lessons, and let's do it differently this time. And having that, like the lessons of experience as opposed to merely the force of experience, is something that it was a gift. It was a gift to this community. I would be remiss if I didn't something similar to what I'd said when I'd said with George. I've when George left, is that I've many times I've been I've complained about the existence of the seat that you're in, the county having this position that's appointed, but I don't have complaints about you, Bob. And I also think that there is something often almost magical about having somebody who is appointed by the county who would sit in our meetings and say, well, the county says this, but I think we should go in this direction, and I think this would be better for the Isla Vista community. And having that champion from the system on our board, on our side, is something that I'm afraid, hearing that you're leaving, that of who we might end up with next. But I have hope that the county gave us you, that the county can give us somebody, at least half of you. So
well, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Jay, I've heard that you say that to me a number of times, and I appreciate it.
All right. Do any other, Jonathan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, I think everyone has already said almost exactly what I might have said, but I just feel so lucky, Bob. I can tell people I learned budget and finance and accounting for local government from a legend in that field. So I'm personally lucky to have worked with you. And just for everyone else to know, Bob came up with the utility user tax. That was an idea we stole from him. So if we want to thank anybody for that very excellent tax revenue source that we have that's different than anyone else, it was his idea. So just wanted to put that out there one more time. And yeah, we had a lot of fun working the last couple of weeks at your place, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, I was helping Jonathan with the close. Since Deborah was out, I was helping him approve transactions, but I sat here and watched him do in 2 hours 30 different transactions that, with my skill level doing those, it would have taken me 3 days. And so he is a very quick learner, and he did really good. He's really good at the system. So you're in good hands with our general manager.
All right. Well, with that, and I see another hand. Director Dashler, please go ahead.
I just want to say a couple comments. Bob, we haven't worked together officially on the board, but just for a few months, but I have watched you from a distance. And I just want to echo what everyone has said, is just super appreciate all your experience, insight, advice as a board member, and really, shaping this district. And I just think it's a lovely thing that this board is really representative of the community. Even the appointed members represent a portion of the community, and it's made the district what it is. And I love the idea of the guys user utility tax. But I just think it's just a real testament to this board that it takes a lot of voices from different age groups and different experience levels to really create good, innovative, community representative policy. And you've been so instrumental in that. And so I thank you for your service on the county, with the county for so many years, and also on the district board here.
Director Flaherty.
Sorry, really quickly, I just wanted to add a comment. I just really wanted to thank you for your service to the community of Isla Vista. I know I've only been on the board since December, so unfortunately I didn't get as much time as a lot of other people did on the board to work with you. But in those few short months, I really have learned so much from you, and it's really inspiring to see such a great advocate of Isla Vista on this board, and we're really going to miss you.
And when I get a chance, I will come to meet you guys in person, because this Zoom stuff doesn't do it justice, so.
I couldn't agree more. And hopefully this is our last Zoom exclusive meeting. So with that, I will entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
I'll make that motion.
I will second.
Made by Bertrand, seconded by Freeman. All right, I'll open up public comment. Is there any public comment on this item or on the motion? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. And I think we'll take it to a roll call vote.
Director Brandt,
Yes.
Flaherty,
Yes.
Bertrand,
Yes.
Geis,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Dashler.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you again so much for your service, Bob.
I appreciate it. It was fun.
All right, now we're going to move to item 4.2. This is the open letter on the Deltopia movie, and we are considering signing on, sending a letter to the producers, directors, and cast of the movie. And I'm sure that some of you on our board were made aware that this is a movie that has been under production and is now, I believe, in post-production. And I, like you, like many of you, I feel very, very disappointed that this is something that's being made. I want to hand it over to Director Flaherty to talk a little bit about this letter that we have authored for the board.
Hi, yes, I'll make it brief because I know that some people are here to speak on this as well. But Spencer and I wanted to share our open letter to the producers, directors, and cast of the movie Deltopia. For anyone who isn't familiar, according to Deadline, this movie takes place in 2014 and follows a group of teenagers as they finish their last day of high school and go to Deltopia for, quote, the biggest party of their lives. We find the premise of this movie, as told through the lens of out-of-town minors, incredibly exploitative of the civil unrest that Isla Vista experienced this year. This movie will tell an incomplete narrative of such a pivotal and dark time in our community's history, and has the potential to undo nearly 8 years of collaborative work to make our community safer. Spencer and I shared our letter on social media a little over 24 hours ago with a link to sign on, and we are about to reach 500 signatures from past and present residents. This speaks volumes about the community of Isla Vista, our shared vision of a healthy Isla Vista, and values of self-determination. And we hope that this letter will help us reclaim this narrative. I'd also like to turn it over to Spencer to add a few more before we open up public comment.
Thank you for that, Catherine. The only thing that I really want to add is that it's hard not to see the parallels between this and the film that was made a number of years ago, glorifying and celebrating the mass killing that occurred in our community. And I don't know what Hollywood's obsession with Isla Vista and our community's collective trauma and grief is. But if any of them are out there listening, I think they should back off. It's not right to exploit our community for profit and to encourage exactly the kind of thing that not just the Community Services District, mostly led by groups like Associated Students, groups at the university, nonprofits in our community, the local school districts have been working so hard to try and change the tide, to build a better future. So I hope that this letter, if anything, helps reclaim what our community is about, because our values are not in line with what I see when I look at those promotional materials and what I hear when I read that article about what this movie is going to be about. I think it's shameful. I know, as Director Flaherty mentioned, there are many in the community that also have opinions on this, and we've heard from many of them over the last 24 hours. But I want to open up the public comment period for any residents who are here who would like to speak on this item right now. Please.
Spencer, I have a comment before you go to public comment.
Is it all right if I open up public comment first, Director Dashler, or do you have?
It's procedural, actually.
Go ahead then.
Question. My question is, did Catherine say that this letter was released on Instagram to the public prior to the board seeing it, and it's an IVCSD letter? Is that correct?
So I can answer that. So the letter that you're looking at was released to our board on Saturday when you got your agenda packet. It was written by Catherine and I, and we shared it privately on our social medias, encouraging folks to sign on to our letter.
So it's not a letter from the board, it's a letter from the community?
It's a letter from the community, and it's in draft form right now.
And from the board? I'm sorry, I'm just confused if this is a letter from the community and the board, or if it's a letter from the board that's being endorsed by the community.
It's a letter from the community and the board. I think that's how I.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to open the public comment period. Please hit the raise hand button or put something in the chat. First hand I see is Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I don't have a lot original to say on this. It's really disgraceful that this movie is being made and glorifying like the worst possible time in Isla Vista's history, at least in recent memory. Yeah, so I support this letter. I have signed it virtually. And I'm, proud of the IVCSD doing what it's doing to represent Isla Vista and stand up for what's right. And so, I thank you all for that. And just as a point of curiosity, I'd love at some point if we could know how many signatories there are thus far, because I've seen a lot of alumni and current students have signed it. And I'm just curious, how many there are so far. And because I think we can get even more. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, Mark. I see a hand from Amber. Please go ahead, Amber.
Yeah, echoing Mark and also the letter itself. I totally support this letter, and I'm also speaking as an Ivy resident from like summer 2019. I've also noticed like there's an increase of out-of-towners even amidst the pandemic, like even my own neighbors this past like school year were out of town. And I also noticed the ways they did not adhere to COVID protocols that were often like spread around, distributed to Isla Vista residents. And so having seen that, it's even more concerning like about the potential impacts of this movie, where like out-of-towners can mean like UCSB students, it can mean minors, it can mean like older adults. And just like we've seen already the ways in which out-of-towners do not respect the environment of our residents, they do not respect our community, they don't understand the culture and the values we already hold, already kind of echoing what Spencer had just said. And speaking from my experience from Deltopia in like 2019, when I was like an 18-year-old girl, very young, I remember like feeling very uncomfortable and unsafe around out-of-towners. And their out-of-towners, like I said before, are not just minors, but like anyone of any age, of any gender, of any background, where we don't know who they are. They can just like come and go. They don't have the same accountability that residents do have, you know. And I remember like I was like with my friends and I was overhearing like these really, and I'm just gonna like go off of memory. I was 18. I remember hearing these like older men. They were, I'm going to guess like middle age, like around 30s or 40s, making very creepy comments about the young women around us. And I remember feeling really uncomfortable around that. And I was glad that I was with like other friends, but just like, I remember that really flipped the switch for me, realizing like, oh, like people here are not from here and they're like objectifying me and my friends and other residents who are here to just engage with the community and all that. And additionally, so it touches upon, let's see, like a poor example of our use, like in the letter. So it's kind of contributing to this like dominant narrative there is about Santa Barbara, Isla Vista, UCSB, about like not, or it's contributing this narrative that substance abuse is okay, and that's just the norm. And I feel like it's really dangerous because from my experience, a lot of my close friends like are addicted to substances and are struggling with this right now. And they have shared with me that they have a history of being exposed to substances at a young age. So in high school, which are the age of the main characters of this movie. And so we are also glorifying potential glorifying of substance use with like minors. And this movie itself would overwrite all the history that's embedded in Isla Vista already in the making. That's already being, what's the word, like kind of hidden. Like even without a movie that's trying to represent what Deltopia and Santa Barbara is, like this movie would overwrite like any history that's been building around how the community is not just partying. Like the community is about, there's activism in the community, there's organizing, there's building, there is so much to the Isla Vista community that's not just the party culture that's perpetuated by like UCSB stereotypes and like so on. So this movie would just like further emphasize kind of this singular narrative about what Isla Vista can be and has been.
Thank you for sharing your experience, Amber, and thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments from members of the public? Please hit the raise hand button or put something in the chat. I do see a comment in the chat from John Foran about wondering why we just found out about this now and maybe not earlier when a protest would have been effective. And I wonder the same thing. I wish that the process on their part wasn't so far along, because one of the reasons that we wanted to bring this letter forward and specifically addressed to the cast and the producers and the directors is to try and directly reach them and let them know how harmful this film is going to be to our community, and really just appeal to their sense of justice and what's right. But as you mentioned, it is pretty far along. I see a hand from Ash. Go ahead, Ash.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you for taking this action of writing this up, and I've signed on because, yeah, for all the reasons you listed, having high schoolers, glorifying, the tragedies and Deltopia, it's ridiculous, and I really hope they reconsider. And if not, I wonder if CSD or UCSB or somebody has any standing to sue them over this, because they're using something that belongs to our community for profit. And yeah, it's really terrible. So thank you so much for taking this action and allowing the community to sign on. And yeah.
Thank you for your comments, Ash. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Okay. Oh, I see one comment in the chat from Amber thanking us for the space. Wanted to also add that Isla Vista residency is not just college students, families also live here, and the movie would also marginalize these populations. Yes, thank you, Amber, for adding that. I think that is an important thing to mention, especially as our school districts work so hard to try and keep our youth and our community away from Isla Vista during these big weekends. That's an important point to make. So seeing no other public comments, I'm going to close the public comment period and bring it back to the board. First, I want to go to Director Flaherty to add something.
Yeah, just super quickly, I wanted to update the amount of signatures that we received so that it's completely exact and up to date. 492 people have signed on to this open letter as of right now.
Thank you for sharing that. And tonight we have the opportunity to add, I believe, I'm counting 7 more. Okay, I think I saw a hand from Director Freeman, so I want to go over to you.
Before I make the rest of my comment, so the information that I have seen on this movie is from a number of posts on social media that end up connecting back mostly to posts on secondary blog spam sources that in turn point back to an article from Deadline, as well as the occasional snippet of information that people gleaned about the existence of the movie from Instagram accounts from, for example, one of the executives, William Newton-John. Question I have is do other people on the board have more source material about the movie than I do? Is there another article than the Deadline article with the paragraph of text in it about what the movie is that I'm missing?
I don't believe I have any other information other than the Deadline article and the Instagram account. Although I will say I cannot look at the Instagram account anymore because I believe that they've blocked me.
All right. So Mark has made mention, IMDb is the movie listed. And to be clear, I'm not questioning the existence of the movie. So the issue that I'm having with the, and first of all, I should say, I like the letter. And given the belief in that, at least I should say, given my understanding of what the zeitgeist believes this movie is about, I even think this is a good letter to send. And I'll even maybe I shouldn't make this explicit, but I'm explicitly. But I like the nuance in the paragraph about the riot because, as people know, I have issues with how the riot is often portrayed as something caused by, and the letter, I think, well covers the idea that whose fault it is. It leaves that ambiguous. I like this letter. The problem that I'm running into is that I don't actually feel like I know what the movie's about, and I want to say that I think, and I probably it's not going to be, but I think a good movie should be made about Deltopia. And I say this, I spent a lot of time doing a lot of research for that police violence and racial discrimination not ordinance, but the forgetting the term now, but the document that we were trying to put together last year. And one of the things I kept seeing is that there's a really, I think, deep story going on with Deltopia that surrounds what happened with that riot, and which I feel comes down to the stereotypical story of the black kid who ends up getting unfairly targeted by police in the area and then ends up escalating into a police riot. I was saying my description of how that ends up happening. I've got all sorts of of evidence I put together for why I felt that way. And the only paragraph of text I have about what this movie's about is the following sentence, or 2 sentences. The film is loosely based on real events from the actual Deltopia, the annual unsanctioned street party held each spring in Isla Vista, Santa Barbara. In 2014, authorities arrested around 100 partygoers when the large event turned violent after one of the revelers was detained by the police. Okay, I'm now going to read from chat. From writers, producers, from Kirsten has posted. Easterling and Riffman said, bringing the teen experience to life as honest as possible is very important to us. And Deltopia wanted to showcase the pivotal moments that teenagers face, whether beautiful or heartbreaking. Teenage rebellion is our driving force in the film, with kids uniting against the man and against authority. Okay, but also we've got from the article on you. Let me find the word heartbreak. I kind of remember, but oh yeah, pivotal moments teenagers face, whether beautiful or heartbreaking. So the problem I'm running into is upset. So I even like the thing that people are having issue with the idea of glorifying this event. Indie movies these days, and this movie is big production, but is not big production in that sense. And so a lot of the movies, they end up taking, they take a very real focus on some of the deep issues. So I can see a movie, and I actually think this is not that unlikely, that ends up taking a group of high school students who end up deciding that they're going to go to Deltopia and end up getting caught up in a situation that is out of control and not fun. And that essentially part of the whole point of the movie is to demonstrate that it wasn't fun, and that there's sexual assault, and that when you are, and the idea of leaving one's comfort space in order to go to this kind of thing isn't something that is like able to be glorified. And I just, I don't feel like I just have enough information to be sending a letter to the producers saying, well, we don't want to see a movie that's even sort of like that's referencing Deltopia, or some of the comments about people was like, it's using an aspect of our community. I mean, this is an event, and particularly like specifically 2014, an event that happened that I think doesn't belong to us in that sense anymore. And I'm personally concerned with this idea of just kind of like deciding what it was about and kind of then steamrolling into the process of, okay, well, everyone has now agreed what it's about. And I guess another thing I'm going to point out, how many people here have seen the movie XOXO? Has anyone seen the movie XOXO? Okay. I think the movie XOXO is going to get as much placement as this got. So the movie XOXO was a movie about a group of people going off to an EDM festival. And it was loosely based upon a festival that is near and dear to my heart, XOXO, which is a festival of independent creators, who essentially YouTube artists and people like Vi Hart, who does like the math magician stuff on YouTube, people who work on games and learning vehicles, and also work on things like music. And the entire festival one year was just a swarm with talk about how it turns out that somebody's discovered our festival exists, and they decided to make a movie loosely based on it. And we actually even it was sufficiently far along in production that we were able to see it, and it did not make that, it made XOXO just look ridiculous. No one's even seen it or heard of it. I'm not voting to put this letter today, given the information I have about this movie, but I'm not concerned about the idea of sending a letter. I have nothing I want to edit on the letter. I totally appreciate all the concerns people have for what this movie could end up being. But I don't think this is the right way to go about this sort of thing. So, yeah.
Thank you for your comments, Director Freeman. Do other board members have anything they'd like to add? I think I see a hand from Director Dashler. Go ahead.
I was waiting to see what Ethan was doing. He's my guidepost. Thank you for bringing up this issue. I hadn't heard about it. I just did a quick Google search. I think that Amber was channeling me, because I loved her comments. I was writing some notes to myself about creating this narrative of Isla Vista being this out of control place where 14-year-olds come, and the exploitive nature of some of the terms that we've been hearing on media about this film. And Amber just nailed everything I was going to say. So thank you, Amber. Very well said. So I think, just what I wanted to say is that what everyone thinks is what everyone has kind of been saying, is that this is really concerning, that that the Isla Vista community and this very difficult time in our history is possibly going to be exploitive in exploiting our community and bringing up, the memories of what we all shared during that time, which were really horrible. A lot of agencies around this community in Isla Vista, in the county, the sheriff, UCPD, Student Affairs, UCSB, Associated Students, many folks around this community have really worked together to try and create a different event, a different community feeling around Deltopia. And I do worry about this kind of exploiting that and actually causing people to want to return to our community in the future during this time. So I do have concerns about it, although I do understand, and I share what Jay's saying. I think that we don't really know what this movie is about, other than a couple of paragraphs that we've seen on social media. And I wonder if there is a way that we can engage with the producers in a more targeted way and have a dialogue with them. But perhaps that ship has sailed. The only thing I wanted to make a comment on the letter, I think it's a beautifully written letter. And I just wanted, there was one sentence in there that this is probably not going to make me very popular, but this sentence about in this one of the paragraphs, since then, Isla Vista residents have experienced a sharp increase in law enforcement that makes our community feel unsafe. That feels like a really strong statement and a really blanket statement. And if everyone thinks that's true on the board, that's fine. I just think that I worry that that statement really causes and continues to perpetuate this antagonistic feeling between all law enforcement and the community. And I do think that I just don't love that, because I think that our law enforcement partners on the whole, I think are good community partners with our community. And I just don't love that sentence. So that's the only thing I would say about this. Many may not know that there was a movie a while back called Del Playa. Has anybody seen that movie or heard about it? Exactly. So sometimes these things just die a death for, just lack of interest. But those are my comments.
Thank you for your comments, Director Dashler. Are there any other comments from board members? Director Bertrand, go ahead.
Thanks. So I appreciate all the comments thus far. I think no matter what, all of us agree that we're concerned about our community being portrayed in a way that disrespects the legacy of what happened, because that was a very serious situation that caused a lot of harm. And we're unsure, based on what we see right now, that this movie is being respectful of that. And we think that, in fact, it's not. But then also, I think we all agree that we, going forward, do not want to be in a situation where we're seeing an increase in some of the issues we're facing with people getting hurt, with alcohol and drug emergencies, and with different events that move from being fun to being a safety hazard. So I think we all agree on that. When Amber was speaking before and talking about just like the challenges of having super young people seeing Isla Vista as this place to go and maybe not make the best decisions, I thought about the Isla Vista Teen Center and the work that those kids are doing, talking about like how Isla Vista can be a safe community, can be a healthy community. They've had multiple campaigns with the I'm a Student Too, and trying to reframe just what is happening in Isla Vista and how we can move forward as a community. And I kind of just offer that as like an example of the things that we definitely want to continue to promote. I'm generally supportive of this letter. I agree that it would be good for us to know more about the film, but I do take seriously the challenges that a film portraying Isla Vista and Deltopia as this unsanctioned getaway for youth across Southern California to come to. I see that as very problematic. So I guess in summary, I'm supportive of this letter. I am encouraged that we're going to continue to do our work to really change what those festival weekends look like in Isla Vista and make it a atmosphere that is much more safe and healthy, and that we'll be able to move forward in a way that learns from the issues of the past.
Thank you for your comments, Director Bertrand. Are there any other comments from board members? I see a hand from Director Freeman. Go ahead.
Not particularly asking for a change to be made, because I think everyone's just going to vote to send a letter off. But I just want to, thought I may as well say that when I ask myself the question of like, well, what would the modifications to such a letter be something that I would be very excited about sending, with the information that I have. Would be something that doesn't necessarily make an assumption about the way what it is, particularly because I feel like a letter that makes assumptions can end up making somebody feel very defensive about their position, particularly if they think that, well, I'm not glorifying it, even if they kind of are. They might feel that they're not. And so a letter that was instead worded that, this has come to our attention. We're unhappy that we didn't have more information sooner. It would have been really great to have been able to work with you. We're asking that you, I think they actually may have started filming for what it's worth, to work with us on your portrayal of this event in order to see whether or not we can like make this something that we would find interesting. These are thought processes that would like I would have it exciting, and to the extent to which we say like we're conditional, like to the many people in our community are concerned that this movie will portray the following 5 things, and these are things that we are very upset about, and we don't think that you should that we feel would be exploitative and harmful, or would lead to more dangerous situations in the future. Essentially, something that I think might actually make the other party feel like we're interested in engaging and adapting their work in order to solve issues. Because I mean, this letter isn't going to change anything for them. If anything, I can just imagine that they're going to end up taking this letter and being like, there's a lot of, if they're actually exploiting us, there's a lot of controversy around this whole movie, and spin it into more controversy around their whole thing, and it'd be even more exploitative. But it's just my thoughts, and that's it. And let's go to the vote.
Thank you for your comments, Director Freeman. Are there other comments from board members? Director Dashler.
Yeah, I was just gonna make the comment also that sometimes you give more attention to an issue than it would normally get, and I worry about that. I think if this letter is going to be sent, I would actually name the directors and the producers, put them in the letter, and so that people know who they are. The producers and the directors are 2 young people from Malibu and Los Angeles. They're young, under 30 age people. I put their names in the letter. I think it's important people know who they are. The cast. It seems like this film is in post-production, but you could send the letter. And I also wonder if there's an opportunity for, like Jay said, just meaningful engagement. Invite the 2 producers for a conversation. Maybe someone in the community wants to initiate that, and share with them some of the real difficult issues that were around Deltopia, and why we really worry about the portrayal of this and all of this issue, this movie, and also as in not wanting to create a destination for people who want to try and experience something that actually does not exist. And I think that could be another parallel strategy of trying to meaningfully engage these producers.
Thank you, Director Dashler. Director Flaherty.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone for your comments. I just wanted to add to, I completely understand where Director Dashler and Director Freeman are coming from. And I agree with it would have been great to have a discussion. But it is our understanding right now that filming has happened already, and we're now in post-production, which is why, just to give some context, which is why we chose to word the letter the way that we did. I would have loved to engage in discussion before, but this was the first time last week, a few days ago, that we heard of this, and so we sprung to action. But I completely understand where you're coming from, and I think engaging in that meaningful conversation would have been great before it was filmed and everything. So I just wanted to thank you for your comments and just add that little bit of context too.
Thank you for your comments, Director Flaherty. And I really want to underscore something that you just said, which is that there was much time for dialogue before these producers, these directors, and this cast signed on to make this film. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. I think that us as a government agency that was born out of the spirit of cooperation and collaboration and of a community dialogue that lasted for about 2.5 years just to get us to the point where we were even created, it is very rightful that we will want to deal with non-government entities like that as well. However, I feel very strongly that from the information that we have about what the nature of this film is, that it is harmful to our community, and it's on us to take back the narrative, not just for our district. This is much bigger than our district. It's bigger than Isla Vista, and it's bigger than the university. It's for our collective Isla Vista to prevent and or try and correct the record for what our community is about. And that is what I really focus on when I think about this letter. And if there are minor modifications that people are interested in making, I'm certainly interested in hearing them. But I feel very comfortable with the level of information that we have. When people are on their Instagram posting things like "party like it's 2014," I think I've got a pretty good idea of what's coming. When the directors are quoted in a news publication talking about how teenage rebellion is the driving force of the film, and I just feel that it's pretty clear what the tone of this is going to be, unfortunately. I also agree with Director Freeman that I would love to see a good movie get made about Isla Vista, because as a history major and someone who loves the history of Isla Vista and of Santa Barbara County, there are so many incredible stories that could be told that are uplifting of the people who live here now, the people who lived here in the past, and the people who live here in the future. But this is not one of them. And I think that it's on us to stand up and say, that's not who we are. Are there any other comments from members of the board? Okay, I'm not seeing any comments from board members. If there are no other comments, I'm willing to entertain a motion. I'm happy to, or I see a hand from Director Bertrand.
I will move that the board endorse the letter to the producers of the movie Deltopia.
It's been a motion made by Bertrand. Is there a second? Not seeing one. I'm happy to second for purposes of discussion. Do board members have anything else that they'd like to add before we go to a vote? Okay, seeing none, I want to thank all the members of the public for your input on this and for really making your voices heard on this important issue. And Jonathan, can you go to a roll call vote?
Yeah. Director Brandt?
Yes.
Clarity?
Yes.
Bertrand?
Yes.
Heiss?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Freeman?
No.
Dashler?
Abstaining.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for this discussion. Okay, now we are going to move to the next item on our agenda, which is the IVCSD Assistant General Manager of Community Programs job description. And I will hand it over to Jonathan to introduce this.
Great. Let me get a second for the screen share to link up. All right. Cool. Well, I'm excited to present this another job description, the third one in a couple months to the board, but we have a lot to do. And it is one of our goals to do this. So we are on track with our goals doing this right now. So this is the Assistant General Manager for Community Programs position. It's a new position. It's based off of some positions that existed before, but weren't part of the district staff. We funded them. So we based I'm going to go over it in a second, but we based a lot of this off of that. And obviously the salary and benefits package is what our committee had put together. So 70 to 80 is the range for the AGM position. So I guess the track you'll see is, we're going to have maybe more than one assistant general manager now, two, and that's how we might do some of our business. So that's the range we set there. The position. So I went and decided, it's really just important to put the goals the position will be working on and like directly up front. Opening the community center is what they're going to take responsibility for and really be leading and running and doing. They will also support some of our other goals, such as the one around nightlife, arts, and culture, and especially to the community center and community room, but potentially other community facilities. Next up, this is a similar language we've used before. They're going to run, they're going to take the high level leadership role in this entire area of the district, which is one of our biggest, I think the biggest program in terms of our budget. So this person will have a lot of responsibility. What they won't do is they won't take the lead on the facilities maintenance and capital projects issues. That'll be me, and Deborah's been also working a lot on those and has that expertise. So I think what we learned from the last time we did this is it doesn't really work to get a really good program person and someone who understands capital projects and maintenance. It's just two totally different skill sets. So they will definitely be totally involved in that because they will use the space and see what is an issue and say, okay, it's missing this or this is wrong, but it's not on them to do. So that was the general just about the position. This is the job description. I made sure, first 2 points in the job description are really focused on, delivering programs, making sure that, we have set regular programs like the Zumba classes we used to have, or the tutoring from AS that used to happen. And then also the second one, which is the reservation system, which is which is what is more used. More of the hours go usually towards that. But these are the two different ways we do business with our community center and community room. Set programs and then reservations, public-private events, and a community calendar, which was one of the things that came up in our board retreat. So it's this person's job. So most of the rest of this is actually the same, but slightly edited from the last Isla Vista Community Center Director job position. So develop a strategic plan. That's also what our board goal is. Having good data and measurement and feedback systems. That was really important in 2019 when we were doing this. We have a community advisory board. It's obviously dormant right now, and it needs to be updated in membership. But this person will work with that group and make sure the meetings are noticed and take the feedback. So they'll have to staff their own body, and I'll support them obviously, but it'll be on them. The grant writing budget, something we've always talked about. Another one of our goals. This person will have a budget to use to hire grant writers or to do grant writing work to get more funding. So really great that we really wanted to do that for a while. So this person will be dedicated to doing that. Facility, just mentioned that's kind of like their role in facilities. Develop policies and procedures we already have. They will manage them and update them. They will be responsible for the budget, and they'll have a supervisory role as an assistant general manager, of course. So that's that. The knowledge, skills, ideal candidate behavior, pretty relevant to what we just posted. And then the education experience, we went the same, preferred but not required, just, updated the fields and areas of work to be matching to this position. And, looking for someone who's done service delivery and understands that, because the position will be doing high level planning, but they'll also have to actually directly arrange the chairs for an event and do that. Like it's both, hands-on work and the high level work, which is a lot of almost all our jobs at the CSD are like that. No one doesn't do any hands-on stuff. So they will definitely be doing both the planning and the work itself. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The example of duties is pretty short. It's not 35 like the other one, but we'll make it, we'll build that out. That's not as, not as part of the job description, and it's more of these job duties right here, which we're gonna use to control what the position is. So yeah, happy to take feedback. We obviously, it has this timeline of starting, after if we do get approval today, and hoping to get them hired before Labor Day. But if we're not ready to approve today, we can adjust that timeline and it'll be a little bit different. But it's up to the board.
Thank you for your presentation of this, Jonathan. I want to open it up to the board. Any clarifying questions on the job description? Director Friedman.
What is the mental model behind? I mean, this was mentioned, but I didn't really feel like I ended up understanding. What is the mental model behind a position being an assistant general manager versus a position merely being a position? Why do we have instead of a director of programming and events? So why do we have an assistant general manager?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's what I went back and forth on a lot before I ended up here, which is assistant general manager. So there's a couple. So you'll see about the position, they will also be dealing with organizing other community programs and other community facilities like the Survivor Resource Center and the community garden. Like I don't really get to spend a lot of attention on making sure those are to their most potential right now. And they do have smaller budgets that we allocate compared to other things, but it's someone who will make sure that all these things kind of work together. And we're really focusing on this area of our budget and developing it, because it's a lot of it has been just ongoing the same for a couple of years. We implemented some things, but didn't take them to the next level. So this person will have that ownership of that. But also, I think that giving them the assistant general manager position, this is our biggest goal as a district, and it's something that is really important to put on someone who has a management level role rather than something a little lower in our structure. So I think the assistant general manager, I guess also the staff structure I'm thinking of is, I guess, a little more flat than hierarchical. So hierarchical, I always have trouble with the word. So I think having more the assistant general managers over different areas is, I think, just to me better than, this person is now this person's boss, now this person's boss kind of thing. So I think that was also another factor in it is, who would this person report to? Well, I don't want them reporting to anyone else besides me. And then it would just be weird if we kept creating other positions that, were not assistant general managers, but also still directly reported to me, and the assistant general manager did too. So that's kind of the organizational structure I'm thinking about, is GM and then AGMs and then program managers for specific things like we have the Compost Collective as they need them. But yeah.
Thank you, Director Friedman. Director Dashler.
Yeah, it would help me when we see these, because I have short-term memory. It would help me when we see these new positions to see an organizational chart. Yeah, that would help me. So Deborah is an assistant general manager, right? And
Yes.
then this would be assistant general manager. And then the community engagement director reports to you,
Yes.
right? So is it the case that now everybody reports to you? Just out of curiosity.
Yes, everybody does. And it'll continue that way for a bit. Like the Compost Collective program manager does report to me, and I'm not gonna, in the structure that I want us to get to, they'll report to this position eventually. But I'm not gonna do that until a year from now when things have settled more. And I would love to have us have an org chart. We don't have one yet. And this position is the decision on this position is the decision that's gonna help actually now build one out, because now we have a theory of, I settled on this assistant general manager instead of the community center director. So yes, I really want us to now have an org chart, and it's something I'm going to do.
And then the other comment I had was just on the salary. So the salary, let me scroll down. I think you said 70 to 80, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the community engagement director was 65?
60 to 75. And I can tell you that it landed at 75. So.
Yeah, so what I worry about is that you've got an assistant general manager and a little bit of distance with a community engagement director. And you said this person is going to be involved in a little bit more strategic and management. They're going to be overseeing programs. And I just wonder if there shouldn't be a higher salary structure to reflect their job as opposed to the community engagement director.
No, it's a good point. I guess, we just recently set these ranges, and now we're starting to think, oh, okay, maybe we can adjust them, which is totally fine. That's what we were saying earlier. We don't want to get stuck in any way. So it's good that now now we're seeing it actually play out. We can make an adjustment. So I think we can probably just stick with what our policy is, which is these ranges now, and then it would be something we'd have to just reopen up as another discussion throughout this year on how we structure our salaries.
Great questions, and thank you for that clarification, Jonathan. Are there any other questions from members of the board? Director Bertrand, go ahead.
Thanks. So I definitely agree with a lot of the points that Director Dashler brought up. But also one thing, just want to mention, I really appreciate including the focus on nightlife, arts, and culture. Having that position to help us bring things from planning to action will be really helpful. So thanks for including that.
Yeah, it just made sense to link these two together.
Any other questions or comments from the board of directors? Okay, well, seeing none, I want to open it up to public comment. Are there any public comments on the Assistant General Manager of Community Programs job description? I see a hand from Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
I genuinely don't know the answer. Right now it shows that it's paid time off has 11 paid holidays. I'm wondering if that includes Juneteenth.
Oh, good catch. We have to update our policies to reflect that, but yeah, it'll be 12.
Thank you.
Great point. Thank you for catching that, Mark. Are there any other comments from members of the public? All right, seeing none, I'll come back to the board. I will just say I appreciate all the comments that have been made too, and agonize about our salary structures as well, because I know that in order to really get the right people, we need to invest in our people. That's the thing about local governments is that some who may be on the more fiscally conservative spectrum may look at organizations, staff salaries, budget, and see a lot of money being spent on staff or not see the value in that. But what I see in the budget that we have for our staff and the money that we pay our staff in the form of salaries, the benefits that we provide them is really investing in people. So I appreciate that comment from Director Dashler about potentially the need for us to revisit this just to make sure that we really invest in our people and that we're competitive out there and get the best folks that we possibly can to apply. I can tell you, just having participated in the process to hire the community engagement director, that I think that process in particular yielded us with a wealth of applicants with so much experience, so much talent. And I know ultimately for the advisory commission that was advising Jonathan, it ended up being a very difficult decision because we had a number of applicants that were really great. So seeing how that worked out and seeing that that was even a lower salary than we have now that we're considering here, I always think about this and go back and forth on it. But Jonathan, if this is the salary range that you think is going to get us a competitive pool of applicants and really be able to sustain people, I'm comfortable with it for the time being.
Yeah, I think I would respond and say, I think we will be able to get people. We'd be able to get the right candidate with this, but I know they're going to ask, when will I be able to exceed this within the next year, which is the question I've been asked twice already. So I'm sure we'll get that question. And I'll tell them, our board is going to be always considering these things.
Director Dashler.
I don't want to be obnoxious, but it does come naturally sometimes for me. It doesn't make any sense to advertise a position to 70 and 80,000 if we've already have a community engagement director who's accepted a position at 75. You're going to create a little bit internal strife. I would just say that right off. I know that we need to do some other action about that, but this is a position that ostensibly is higher in the org chain than in the org chart. I just managerially, it doesn't inspire confidence.
That's a good point. We should at least move it up, 75. If the board's okay with moving it 75 to 85, that's fine, or we can do 75 to 80. Both are totally fine with me. That's a good point.
And I also, like Kirsten, would love to see the org chart, because I'm not conceptualizing it right based off of what I heard you say. But I think that will be helpful. And it's good that we continue to grow as an organization to the point where it is now necessary that we have such a document. Whereas in the past, we know that we've been a one-person show and gotten very far, but it's time to grow. So I think that would be good for us to see. Director Freeman.
Kind of connecting into all of this confusion over what precisely is the org chart. So Jonathan had mentioned wanting to have kind of a flat topology, but at the same time, I feel like we're not the exact same time. During that exact same spiel, I feel like Jonathan is kind of talking about the this new assistant general manager position having actually like directing programs that involve people below them, and this feeling then where I'm feeling this issue that Kirsten is feeling about, like, is this person kind of higher or not? Like, if you want to really encourage flatness, I feel like you need to not have title differences between people that make people think that, well, I've got a director title and you don't have a director title. I have an assistant general manager title and you only have a director title. It causes just a feeling of rank, if nothing else. But and I've seen this viscerally in organizations that I've been involved in, where people are just like, I want a director title, give them a director title, and suddenly something totally different happens now. So people question, why don't I have a vice president of this title as opposed to just a director of that title? All sorts of things.
Great, thank you for those comments, Director Freeman. Are there other comments from board members?
I think that if we are to approve it tonight, we do have to go with the higher range. But also, if this is something we want to think more about and come back next time, specifically, thinking about how the salary range intersects with the assistant general manager versus director versus maybe there's something else to consider too. But also, I do think this is well thought out. So if we are comfortable with just going to the higher range tonight, I'm supportive of that.
Was the higher range that was mentioned something that Kirsten finds satisfactory to the concerns that she had? Because it's not clear to me that was like, well, that 5,000 change in this range was sufficient. I don't know. I'm not good at that. I'm really bad at that.
Yeah, I'm just a little, I guess I'm just confused about the org chart and the difference between um, the assistant general manager versus the community engagement director. And I just don't know how those all relate to each other. They're obviously different titles, but it would be helpful to almost see a side by side of their job descriptions and their responsibilities so that we can really decide where the salary level should land. I think it's super arbitrary to say, let's do 5 to 10,000 more. I think it would be better for us to look at this a little bit more comprehensively, but I don't want to delay because I know there's pressure to fill this position, but I do think there's value, especially Jonathan, as we are growing, to really look a little bit more comprehensively at the positions, where they are, what their salaries are landing at, and to help you, because it does have a factor on your recruiting. You know, putting out a salary will draw some and deter others. And so it's important that the salary and the expectation of job responsibilities are in alignment and you have a successful recruitment.
No, these are good points. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate my colleagues' points as well. Having not worked in a large organization, it's certainly enlightening to hear those considerations. Those are great points about wanting to look at this comprehensively in the future, to try and get the board a better understanding of how it works as we grow, and where the organizational chart is. Jonathan, did you have a chance to take into consideration other positions or surveying other comparable job postings from other organizations when considering putting everything together and the range?
No, I used the range that we did from our salary study survey. So that's 70 to 80 is what we had decided for AGM. But I did use other ones to help do the some of the points about the job description, other things. But yeah, the range is just what we have already approved.
Got it. That makes sense to me. Well, having heard that, if the board is wanting to take a more comprehensive look at this before we make the final decision, I'm certainly comfortable with that. I'm also cognizant, though, of the desire to get the process moving and make it easy for you to effectively plan, because I know that there's a lot happening right now in district operations. I see a hand from Director Dashler.
Yeah, I'm conscious of the fact that our next meeting is August 10th. So if we wait, this really delays the recruitment. I guess what my recommendation would be, or what I'd be supportive, is just bumping it up an additional 5,000 for your recruitment, and maybe revisiting it if we need to after you do the recruitment.
Okay, so just to make it right, 75 to 85 is what you're saying? Yeah, got it.
Director Freeman.
I'm curious. I maybe no one else would think this is a slightly good idea, but I throw it out there. So in addition to bumping up the salary slightly based upon our understanding of what the tasks essentially and then the importance of what they're doing is, decreasing the title down to director. You can always make somebody very happy by telling them they're assistant general manager later, but trying to take something that sounds better and making it into something that sounds worse later as an attempt to reorganize work charts can be really essentially just impossible. So I don't know if anyone else thinks that's even a really good idea.
I mean, I hear the spirit of what you're trying to say. I also hear the spirit of Jonathan's desire to make it a flat organization.
Well, that's actually why I'm. Oh, you mean because of the we have. It's part of my issue in some sense is that we have this community engagement director, and now we're going to bring on this assistant general manager of programs, and I feel like it's going to create an implicit not flatness between the two of them. And if you don't want those to be flat, you do this. If you want those two people to be flatter, you either make the other person assistant general manager or you make this person director. And you deal with the issue that, well, maybe Deborah's supposed to be flat with all of them. I don't know if I even agree with that thought process, but I feel like that's something that which might force the idea of making everyone assistant general manager. But the goal of trying to obtain flatness is where I'm coming from with the idea of, until we have a chance to really think through what's going on, take this assistant general manager, advertise it as a director. You can always change it later and make somebody happy, I think. But
yeah, I think the difference, Jay, is that the director is a focused functional position and this is a broader management position. It's, to me, in my head, it's totally different because this person's implementing this, pretty large complex goal. Community engagement isn't not complex, but it's just a very specific thing. It's pretty cross-functional. They're going to be working on lots of different programs, supporting them. It's like an organizational need. This person is like running a department essentially.
I feel like in an actual flat organization, you decide on the parts of the problem that each person is going to be tackling, whether it be that this person's job is to try to figure out how to get engagement from the community, like the community, that not this person in the one we're talking about today, but like the person on my left is a person that's going to be working on engagement from the community. And so, for example, tasks like I noticed that the calendar is now on this person's plate, whereas I would have strongly assumed that the calendar would have been on the plate of the person who's in charge of also doing social media outreach and engagement and all sorts of those sorts of things. But I can also appreciate where the calendar might now be. The calendar starts to feel like a program that everyone is now involved in, where you've got the people who are in charge of how to present that with the community and get engagement with it. You've got people who are, what is exactly this person doing in a flat organization? Whereas I feel like the description you just provided is actually not flat. You're saying that there's this person who's working on, they're kind of an employee, they're working on a very defined task. And then there's this new person that we're bringing on. They are a manager. They are going to be doing in charge of programs and these things. And it's okay. The goal is to not make it flat. It's a good thought process. But if the goal is that it's going to be flat, I don't think we're getting there. But
I might add one thing if unless there's other directors that want to add something first. I might propose, you shared, Jonathan, that about a year from now is the time when you plan on transitioning other coordinator level staff. I know we have one now and potentially more in the future under this person's supervision. Maybe that would be the appropriate time to also increase the title bump to bring it up to assistant general manager of community programs. I don't know, just an idea. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's possible to do that. Definitely, like we would make this person director of community programs and bump them up in the future. I think then the title change wouldn't have any, I'd keep the job description the same pretty much. And only maybe add a few things, but I think it could work if that's what it makes more sense for people.
Any feedback from the board on this?
So Spencer, you're saying bring this person in as a director and then revisit after a year? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Jonathan, if that makes sense to you and your work plan, I'd be supportive of it. But I definitely, I know you've thought a lot about this. So if it is a significant shift from what you had in mind, I'd rather us wait to hear from you when you have some more time to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I did think about this a lot, and to me, it was actually not even between director of community programs or assistant general manager of community programs. It was between Isla Vista Community Center director or assistant general manager for community programs. So, because it was going to be like a way more focused role on the community center. I mean, this still is 90-80% community center. It just has some other things. And they probably won't do those other things in this next year. They'll do some of them, but not all of them, because the community center is such a big lift. So, yeah, I think it could be done with the director for now. but we definitely will need an assistant general manager level person in this role.
The one additional then thought process to kind of counter even what I've now been saying is that, so if we now go and we put in the person as director today and we give them a certain salary, at the moment that we say now, and I would expect make them happy by changing the title, even if we are like adamant that we're not changing what you're doing, we're just changing the title, they might be like, oh, well, you're changing my title, but you're not, I'm certain that's going to give me more responsibility, but you're not going to give me a salary increase at the same time. If we do the thing that Spencer just said, I think they certainly would want to have a salary increase, because it's going to be like, wait, you see, I was doing the one thing for a year, and now you have a transition into a kind of different role. That's the moment to decide that I'm now an assistant general manager. Well, clearly I should have a salary increase if I'm now in charge of them. So we should, if our goal is to target a certain salary, we don't want to, at the assistant general manager, we now would need to be, if we go director, we would need to be at least a little bit below that. But
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I'm just so much as Jay, sorry, but I would just say, yeah. I mean, if you're going to advertise the position as a director position, have it be the 60 to 70, the same as, or 70 to 80, or whatever you did for the community engagement. You'd want those to be equal. And yeah, if in a year you kind of restructure and you have it be beyond, the responsibilities be beyond the community center and the community room, yeah, of course, it's implicit that I would think that you would increase the salary with a change of their responsibilities and the change of their title.
That's then really what I would prefer to see, is to do it at the same level as the other position in both the salary and the title.
Director Geis.
I would just prefer that we as a board don't micromanage the depth of this job description. I think it's perfectly written. I think the title's fine. And I think the salary level we originally had it at was okay for the recruitment to see what we were going to get. So that's just, I don't think we as a board, we should let managers be the management, and that they bring this to us for comment. I think it's good, but I don't think we should micromanage this stuff to death.
Yeah, I think the points of my colleagues are all well taken, and that one especially, because I recognize that we can get deep in the weeds sometimes up here on the board. Yeah, having even thought about it a little bit more with your comments, Jay, about increasing someone's title, and their duties, it seems like if this is the job description from a description perspective that we're comfortable with, then we should be comfortable with the title and with the modified salary range that we discussed. Any other comments from board members?
When you all initially envisioned this position, you envisioned it to be really focused on the community center and the community room. And Jonathan, now you've added a component where they'll be managing nightlife and other kinds of community events. So the position is bigger than initially envisioned, would you say?
Yes, and it's also our other community facilities like the Survivor Resource Center and the Community Garden, which don't have a home in terms of who's dedicated to them right now.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say one more thing is the other position ended up having to do it, but was not actually their job to staff the advisory board, which is a whole thing to staff a board.
Yeah. Bob's comments are really well taken. It can be really easy to just pontificate, but I trust your judgment. You're hired to do your job, my only comment in this, whatever you want the title to be, it's fine. My only comment is I would just raise the salary, because I think it's just too close to the community engagement director, and that's kind of where I fall on this.
Right. No, we'll do the 75 to 85 in what we are proposing. I'll change my recommendation right now. So,
and on that thought process, I'm not intending to vote no on things that we're doing or you're recommending here on this. I don't think there's any of this is wrong. I'm just trying to provide feedback as requested on this document. And I feel like in some sense it's not particularly nitpicky to just look at the name of the position and the salary range. But
That's well taken. And yes, and as I mentioned before, I'll just reiterate, I appreciate my colleagues, especially those that have been a part of larger organizations, because that's not an experience that I've ever had. So it is very, it's helpful to hear that feedback brought up. And I'm also very trusting of what Jonathan's put together. And I also just want to take a moment to say how exciting this is, that we are making this move to bring back a person who will be responsible for something that is one of the core services of the district. It's about 30% of the budget is towards community programming, and I know that when the district was being envisioned, even before it was created, there was this vision that the Isla Vista Community Center, under our supervision and under our programming, would be a lively and beautiful place. And I just want to take a moment to recognize how important a step this is towards getting that to that vision. So thank you for your work that you put into this, Jonathan, and thank you for everyone's feedback. I think at this point would entertain a motion.
We need public comment or no?
Yes. Any public comment?
Mark asked a question in the chat.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, I thought we already had public comment, but I will take the advantage of speaking again because of the question I had in the chat. Currently, the assistant general manager's pay, I believe, is $81,000 with a proposed increase of $92,000. I'm not sure when that increase is supposed to be, but this is as of document of April 2021. I'm just wondering, will the two assistant manager positions have the same salary? Will those be reflective of each other?
I think that's a personal issue. I don't think I can answer that directly, but we have the ranges that we have set and what we put out in that plan.
Yeah, and thank you for that question, Mark. Sorry it couldn't be more explicitly answered, but yeah, trying to keep our organization within the legal balance and everything. Okay, bringing it back to the board, is anyone ready to make a motion?
I will move approval of the job description with two modifications, or with one modification to the title from assistant general manager to director. Maybe I won't get a second, but that is my motion.
Anyone coming in with a second? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, not seeing one. Maybe I would entertain a substitute motion from Director Freeman.
I'll probably vote yes on somebody else's motion, but that was my motion.
Does anyone else have a substitute motion? Director
I'll make a motion that the board approve a job description, pay, and benefits for the IVCSD Assistant General Manager Community Program.
Okay, there's a motion.
With the salary adjustment that was discussed by the board. The range adjustment.
Salary range to 75 to 85.
I'll second that.
Okay, made by Geis, seconded by Dashler. Any other comments from the board? All right, seeing none, we'll take it to a roll call vote.
Director Brandt?
Yes.
Director Flaherty?
Yes.
Director Bertrand?
Yes.
Director Geis?
Yes.
Director Aguilar?
Yes.
Director Freeman?
Yes.
Director Dashler?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Okay. Now we are going to move to next item on our agenda, which is the letter on the Department of Justice Community-Oriented Policing Services Hiring Program. And this is a item that's being brought by myself and Director Bertrand. So I kind of just want to introduce to everyone what the community-oriented policing services hiring program grant is, and then what the modifications that this letter is meant to intend. So the community-oriented policing services is a program that is run by the United States Department of Justice, and it provides grants to jurisdictions for policing services that are meant to enhance connection and communication and collaboration within the community. Right now, the way that Department of Justice interprets the grant program, they award such grants and accept applications for funding only from agencies that provide law enforcement services. And what we have seen over the past year especially is there have been a number of policy proposals brought forward by various different community groups, not just in Santa Barbara County, but throughout the nation, with the goal of addressing public safety in a manner that is holistic and that utilize certain solutions that may be outside of the direct realm of law enforcement. I'm thinking of some of the things that our board has discussed, although our presentation from SNAP was a presentation about a law enforcement program. I know there have been other peer-to-peer types of solutions that we have discussed that would potentially have a significant impact on our community. And additionally, programs such as the Cahoots program, which was part of the presentation that our staff and interns put together on different types of alternative response, and is a program that is being pursued by the city of Lompoc right now, which would provide mental health counselors as a primary mode of response for certain types of calls for service involving mental health. And the goal of this letter is to engage our member of Congress to encourage him to communicate with the Department of Justice and voice his support for them broadening that eligibility to criteria to include these alternative response type of, or not alternative response, just include sorts of programs that may be outside of just law enforcement agencies. And I think that ultimately, as the letter reflects to, hopefully this is already within the Department of Justice's authority to do, and it's just a question of interpretation. I know that for all of these programs that we have talked about and heard from at the board, and not just at our board, but in other cities and jurisdictions, that right now, most of them are still in the ideas phase. And in order to get from an ideas phase to an implementation phase, funding is something that is very crucial. And so broadening that criteria would really potentially provide a source of funding for jurisdictions. And while we may be a small special district in a little town called Isla Vista, I think every little piece of support helps. And it is, as principle, very good for local districts and agencies to try and do our best to inform our policymakers at the federal level. So I know I've just taken up a lot of time explaining that, but Director Bertrand, do you have anything that you would like to add to this?
Yes, and thank you, President Brandt, for really carrying this. Really appreciate your work on this. Just to give you all an understanding of how we brought our attention to this, there was a communication from Local Progress, which is a great organization made up of local elected officials, from council members, school board members, special district members from around the country, who are focused on implementing policies that advance economic and racial justice at the local level. And that's how we found out about this specific ask for the COPS hiring program. And to connect it to Isla Vista specifically, I put in the chat a link to a community-oriented policing services newsletter from years ago where they actually highlighted the UCIV program, recognizing it as something that could be a national model for improving public safety in communities. And I think the intent of our letter today is to move beyond just praising these programs, but to fund these programs when we're looking at funding improvements in public safety. So yes, there's this focus on just the national movement for better community response to issues, but also this local nexus of the Department of Justice recognizing Isla Vista programs in the past. And this is an example of something that still needs dedicated funding that hopefully a program like this could perhaps support. And then lastly, I'll mention the COPS office was founded with the crime bill that passed in the mid-90s. And we know the legacy of that. And I think that with this current moment we find ourselves in as a community, as a state, as a nation, of trying to reimagine public safety, I think this is a really important time for us to learn from the response 20 years ago and do something different today, which a program like this that supports not only law enforcement, but also community organizations achieves. So Spencer, thanks again for bringing this.
Thank you, Ethan, for those comments. I really appreciate those, contextualizing it within the history. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues on the board? Director Dashler.
So this letter is basic. We think that the Department of Justice has the authority to change the definition of who they can award grants to, and that's why this is. So we're basically asking Congressman Carbajal to communicate to the DOJ to change the definitions, or are we asking for something from the Congress? I was just a little confused by that.
Good question. We are asking for our member of Congress to communicate with the Department of Justice because we think that it is within the DOJ's authority to change it.
That's great. I think it would also be helpful to engage our congressmen in looking at other types of DOJ type programs that our district could qualify for.
Thank you for that. I think that that is a great idea, Director Dashler. Any other comments from my colleagues on the board? Okay, seeing none, I will open up the public comment period. Any public comments on this item? I see a hand from Mark. Go ahead, Mark.
I have two comments. One is just like, I guess, something I'm confused by. I think a few CSD meetings ago, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 ago, there was an open letter signed and directed directly to Secretary Buttigieg of the Transportation Department. And I'm a little bit just like confused why this letter isn't directed at Attorney General Merrick Garland, because I feel like he might have authority to make this change under the Department of Justice purview. So that's just a pure point of confusion. And then my other point is more of like, I just feel like I'm being like a Debbie Downer, but like just looking at the COPS program, I put the description in the chat. This is their kind of brief description. Obviously, they have a longer one. It feels like the very premise of this program is to hire more law enforcement. And so I feel like I'm not against this idea. It just feels like it's fundamentally changing the whole premise of the program is what we're asking for, which is like maybe cool, but I guess I'm just not hopeful for something that has as explicit of a premise of hiring more law enforcement. It doesn't even say necessarily its goal is to reduce crime, which you can think of other measures to do that. It explicitly says hiring more full-time law enforcement. So that's my comment, but I would love clarification on the first one because I'm still a little confused about that.
Thank you for your comments, Mark. I will say to the question about who the letter is addressed to, we really are following the lead of the organization Local Progress, who is leading this engagement effort, not just with us here in Isla Vista, but with elected officials from jurisdictions across the country. And I can't speak to their specific advocacy strategy. I know there's at least one person on this board that is very experienced at leading advocacy strategies. And I know that just about everyone on the screen has had experience trying to work within the structures of government to achieve different goals. And sometimes you have one target that's a department head. Sometimes you target your efforts at legislators. It depends sometimes. So I actually don't know exactly why that is, but I do defer to what their goal is there, or their expertise, I would say.
And I think we certainly should CC officials at the Department of Justice, though. Absolutely. Make sure that they get the letter directly too.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah. And I'll also mention, I know that all of our legislators, whether at the state level or the federal level, not just our congressmen, but our California senators are actively working on this topic. So I think that, and for that matter, maybe we CC our senators too, just because this is of relevance for their constituents. And I think that this will be well received by the folks who are representing us in DC.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for that point, Ethan. I agree. Let's CC everybody. Just kidding. Not everybody. But we'll definitely include our other legislators. Director Dashler.
Yeah, it wouldn't be appropriate to, protocol-wise, it's not appropriate to CC the DOJ on a letter to Salute Carbajal. If you're going to do that, you would have the own direct letter to either the person who oversees the COPS program. But, that's entirely appropriate, especially given the fact that UCIV was highlighted in a previous communication by them. But you wouldn't CC DOJ on Salute letter. You do a separate letter.
Got it. In that case, I, again, would just defer to the folks at Local Progress who have got the advocacy strategy laid out among their organization, but would be very happy to CC our other legislators as well. Any other comments from my colleagues on the board? All right, if not, are we ready for a motion?
I'll move approval of the letter.
I'll second.
Made by Bertrand, seconded by Geis. Any last public comment for the record? Any last board discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote.
And you know what? Sorry, I'll actually amend that just based on our discussion. Move approval of the letter to be sent to our federal representatives and other appropriate Department of Justice officials.
All right, motion made, and is that friendly with the seconder?
Yes.
Okay, any other comment on that from colleagues on the board? Okay, let's go to a roll call vote.
Director Brandt,
Yes.
Flaherty,
Yes.
Bertrand,
Yes.
Geis,
Yes.
Aguilar,
Yes.
Freeman,
Yes.
Dashler.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Now we're going to move to a recess. We are going to be recessing for 5 minutes, and this board will reconvene at 8:03 p.m. Thanks, everyone. See you soon. Okay, I'm going to ask everyone to come on back. We're going to reconvene the Board of Directors meeting. Okay, we are now reconvening the Board of Directors meeting at 8:03 p.m. And I'll hand it over to Jonathan to introduce item 4.6 to provide for collection of the sewage utility user tax.
Great, thank you. So this is a resolution we need to do every year. It's just a resolution authorizing me to fill out the forms necessary to, collect this tax every year. So it's a pretty routine thing, just to introduce it to our new board members. It's just how we levy the tax, and we pay the county $1 per parcel, and there's like 900 parcels that we tax. So. We'll get our submission in early this year. It's due on August 10th, but we're waiting on some data, and we're approving it now, earliest that we ever have. So we'll get it in and be done with this.
Right, glad to hear it. Any questions from the board?
Since this is going to the County Office of Auditor Controller, while I don't believe that I have a conflict, I'm just going to recuse myself just to be safe. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Director Bertrand. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, I'll ask, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board, and I think we're ready for a motion. Director Flaherty.
I move to approve resolution 21-6 to provide for the collection of the sewage UUT.
I will second.
I'll second. Jay can have that one.
Made by Flaherty, seconded by Freeman. Any other board discussion? All right, we'll go to a roll call vote.
Director Brandt?
Yes.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Bertrand is recusing himself. Geis?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Freeman?
Yes.
Dashler?
We'll leave the roll open for Director Dashler once she is able to return. Okay, so with that, we're going to move to the next item, 4.7, appointment of the real property negotiators for the compost pile agreement.
Great. Well, this is a procedural thing we need to do so that we will be able to also have a closed session on this later. It's not just procedural though. If you are one of the negotiators, it is some fun, or you can just leave me with the job, or we can have some board members participate in this. It is up to you if you want to participate, but you at least have to, appoint me and Ross, and then any board members who would like to join in on that. And I sent you all the agreement so that we can discuss the price and terms of payment in the closed session.
Director Freeman.
To verify, because I never fully understood this, sadly, and I really should. For the closed session, when we do those closed sessions, those are us huddling. That's not actually like you're not doing the negotiation then. That's what you've got on the agenda for later today. So when we're appointing these negotiators, it's not who's going to go into the closed session later today. We're all going to go into the closed session later today,
right?
But the people we're appointing are the people who will actually have the meeting with the county and present the information to them.
Yeah, for both these. Yeah, we're doing one with IVRPD and
Okay.
one with the county. Yeah, so yeah, you're appointing a team, and we're taking direction from the board during the closed section.
Question I would probably pose back to Jonathan and Ross is there anyone from that you want to draft onto that group? Otherwise, I would think that you would want to have the smallest number of people in that meeting as possible in order to prevent there to be weird Discord issues.
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't think of anyone to draft, but one or two people would be more than welcome, though, to be in it to help, talk with their board members and work this out.
All right, well, with that, then, any volunteers from our board?
I am interested in the negotiation related to the compost pile. I just don't know if I would end up being a problem in the sense that there's a negotiation that's occurring. I just always think about minimize the number of negotiators. But if you're actually interested in having anyone else, I've been heavily involved in the process of giving the compost collecting in the past. I'm very interested in getting the details in my head with relation to as we try to move forward with things like trash service in the future. And so compost pile in particular, I would just, even if I'm not even saying anything, I would be fascinated by it.
Maybe what would be helpful right now, because this isn't set in stone, right? We can come back and revisit it if we decide that we want board members on it. Not that I'm against you being on the team, Director Freeman. I'm just thinking maybe for the time being, maybe we appoint Jonathan and Ross as negotiators. And then once we're able to get a better understanding of what the issues are in closed session, maybe we can revisit it.
Yeah, if I were them, I would be trying to discourage board members from being on there. And so that's why I'm just like, if you're actually somewhat interested in board members, I'm interested in being on it. But I'm not actually recommending you have a board member on that negotiation process. So
yeah, we would welcome a board member if anybody was interested. Yeah, obviously, if you're interested, it would be good to have your involvement. But we can also just do it. We'll see. We'll see what the direction is in the closed session too, and how much work this will be.
Great. So hearing that, then, does anyone have a motion they'd like to make?
So move to appoint the general manager and district council as negotiators for the compost collective pile agreement with the Isla Vista Recreation and Park District.
I will second.
Made by Bertrand, seconded by Freeman. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we'll bring it back to the board, and I think we'll go straight to a roll call vote.
Director Brandt?
Yes.
Flaherty?
Yes.
Bertrand?
Yes.
Geis?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Freeman?
Yes.
Dashler?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, next item on our agenda is the appointment of real property negotiators for 970, 976 Embarcadero Del Mar. Director Bertrand.
Thank you. Due to my employment with the County of Santa Barbara, I will be recusing myself from item 4.8 as well as item 5.1. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bertrand. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Great, thank you. So with Bob stepping off the board, there is another opportunity if anybody wants to be a board member as part of this negotiation team with the county. And we've also discussed among us, like me and Bob and Spencer and Ross, about keeping Bob as an unpaid consultant as one of our negotiators. So we would recommend that if another board member wanted to join in, you're welcome. And but also we want to appoint Bob as our unpaid consultant part of the team. So we need to do that now separate since he's not a board member anymore.
Okay. Director Freeman.
I am very glad to hear that Bob is apparently willing to do that, because that was one of the things that I was kind of terrified about in the handoff with relation to Bob leaving. So awesome.
Excellent. Any other comments from board members? Anyone else interested in joining the team? Okay, seeing none, I think we are ready for a motion.
Motion would be, if you need it, it's just that his title would be unpaid consultant.
Got it.
Appoint, hire. What's the verb?
Point. It's a point. So yeah, the consultant contract would be a separate thing.
Would we be an appoint unpaid consultant to the real property negotiators, to the board, to the district?
As for the district, so you can say motion to appoint Bob Geis as an unpaid consultant member of the real property negotiation team for the district for 970 and 976 Embarcadero Del Mar.
I will move to appoint Bob Geis as an unpaid consultant member of the real property negotiation team, I think is what you said,
Yeah.
for the 970, 976 Embarcadero, sorry, for the real property at 970 and 976 Embarcadero Del Mar.
All right, there's been a motion made. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, made by Freeman, seconded by Flaherty. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board and we'll go to a roll call vote.
Director Brandt,
Yes.
Director Flaherty,
Yes.
Director Bertrand. Oh, he's recusing. My bad. Director Geis.
Can I vote for myself? Or
You're
should
not
I'll abstain.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Freeman,
Yes.
Director Dashler.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Okay, I'd like to move to reports before we go into closed session for the benefit of the public, so that folks don't have to stay on for a long time if they don't want to, if they want to hear our reports. And we'll start off with reports from members of the board. Any board members have reports they'd like to share?
President Brandt, before you take any reports, I believe you left the roll open for roll call vote on resolution 2116. I don't think Director Dashler was back yet.
Thank you for that point of order, Ross. Director Dashler, do you have a vote on the motion to approve the resolution 21-16?
I'm sorry, 5 minutes is not enough for dinner. Yes, I approve.
No problem. Okay, now we are closing the roll on that. Thank you for that interjection, Ross. Do any board members have reports that they'd like to share? I will share a quick report. I participated in the Elected Leaders Forum on Homelessness this last Friday. The forum spoke about the need to appoint a staff person from each agency that would be the point of contact on issues relating to homelessness, which Jonathan has already graciously volunteered and in many ways been filling that role, and also spoke about the need to generate an inventory of sites that could be used for permanent or temporary supportive housing, which I will also share is something Jonathan has already done with our county staff. In many ways, I think our community is thankfully really ahead of the curve when it comes to many of our other jurisdictions of responding to this pressing issue because of our experience during the pandemic and before the pandemic as well. And so we also got to look at some data about where the supportive housing units are in Santa Barbara County. And it was very illuminating to see how that breaks down by jurisdiction. There was also a brief discussion about the Hedges House of Hope, which we have heard before. No action or additional action that I can share that was taken, but I thought it was a very good meeting to discuss an important issue from a regional basis. Director Bertrand.
Thank you. Last week, I met with a member of the Daily Nexus's video multimedia team to talk about COVID in Isla Vista and just what the last 16 months have looked like. And I'm really glad that they are capturing this story of what our community's done, because I think overall it's a success story. I just spoke about how the vast majority of Isla Vista residents have shown a high level of commitment to keeping their neighbors safe, and got to speak about some of the different programs that we did, as well as the communication that we did as a district. So I believe that'll be coming out later this week, but and we're not out of the woods yet, but thus far, I think we have a lot to be proud of.
Thank you for sharing that, Director Bertrand. Are there any other reports from members of the board? All right, moving on to committee reports. Any reports from committees? For the benefit of the public, I believe Finance Committee is meeting next Monday at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m.?
5:30.
5:30 p.m. And that agenda will be sent out in advance with the Zoom link. Okay, report from District Council.
Just one item to report on tonight to the board. I've been keeping the board up to date on bills that have been moving through the state legislature with respect to the Brown Act and public participation and observation of meetings via technological means, remote participation. There has been some positive action on AB 339, which received a double recommendation out of the two committees in the Assembly that were considering action on it to the Senate for approval. AB 339 would allow for local jurisdictions, local agencies to proceed to the types of remote participation and observation methods that we've all become very used to since COVID kicked off last March, but without having to wait for some type of announcement or executive order from the governor's office. So essentially, any local declaration of an emergency would trigger the ability for all of the affected local governments to be able to move to that remote participation and observation protocol without something coming down from the state. So a lot more flexibility in implementing that type of a solution so that the wheels of government continue to move forward even when local emergencies are displacing people and having an impact. Local government can still meet, representatives are still available to the public, and the public can still observe and participate. So the prevailing idea is that that is going to be passed by the Senate. It was warmly and received by the Senate from the Assembly, and we expect that the governor would sign it. It's fairly non-controversial. It's one of those things that it actually makes a lot of sense. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Ross. Any questions for Ross? All right, seeing none, we'll go to report from General Manager.
Okay, thank you. I've got some good things on the report today. So we did hire a new program manager for the Compost Collective, Carly Mardo. She started last week and she's off to a strong start. She's already hired 2 new dirt riders to replace vacant positions. And yeah, we're already feeling the benefits of her being in the job, and we're doing a lot of training and orientation of her. And she's going to get the program launched again in about a week and a half to 2 weeks before the end of July. So good news there. I know I said last time that we were going to have the new proposal from Ivy Beautiful at this meeting. It just wasn't ready in time, like just by a hair, but we're going to discuss it at the Finance Committee, since a lot of it is a financial issue, what from the proposal. So it's something to look at our Finance Committee. It came in at 117,000, where we had budgeted 100. So something to talk about. Spencer and I had a good discussion with UCPD yesterday on the safety stations contract, and we talked about so many topics, from the budget, the new start times, the location, better data collection, doing user surveys at the stations, the look of the CSOs at the stations. So we're figuring all these out, and we're gonna, Safety Station is gonna get a big upgrade for this next fiscal year. So we're gonna have that at the next August meeting. So the new start date we discussed is it's not operating right now, obviously, never does in July, but is August 27th will be the start, but it'll only be one station because they won't even have enough staff to do more than one then, and then moving up to 2 in September, and then eventually the third, doing the testing for the third and potentially fourth. So yeah, we are we're doing well there. Rental housing mediation program, still have the annual report on hold while Deborah's out, but we did have a good rush of issues at the end during move out, so people are finding us when they really need it. Next thing with the community room, just the community room right now, but I'm putting together a programming plan for the coming weeks as we are reopening. There's already programming happening at the community room, just it's gonna keep getting bigger over time. We've already actually started accepting reservations. It's kind of like a soft launch. I didn't announce anything yet, just so we can work out the kinks, and it's just me right now handling it, so we don't want to have too much, but we are already getting a lot of requests to use the rooms, both like now in this month and out in the future in the fall. So the demand is out there, so it's great to actually hear it. We got a wedding request in during the board meeting, so, and then some unions want to use it to meet. Student groups are looking at it, so we've got a good user base coming back already, and they're just finding us on our website. It's great. But then related though is the library. We're landing on a date soon to start. I don't have that yet, but it's looking like we're gonna get a 2 to 7 Monday through Wednesday. So those times will be not available for reservation in the community room, and we'll need to work out the issue with our board meeting twice a month. But we're working on with them to get that launched, and we're gonna help them get the job openings for the Isla Vista positions promoted. So hopefully a resident can maybe get that job. In-person board meetings, we already mentioned, will be returning on August 10th. STEP grant, amazing news. We had our first kickoff meeting today with our team from county and MTD and Ivy Youth Projects, and from CARB, our representatives. So we've got our work set out for us. The next 6 months, the goals are we're going to do our RFP and our scope of work and select a consultant. The board will do that at the end, and then we're going to launch a community engagement program. And then we're also going to get the existing conditions report completed by the end of December. It's ambitious. Not all of this might be done by the end of December. Most of it will. We're going to pick a consultant by the end of September, but it's off. The STEP grant has started officially, so it's good news. We got a response back from LAFCO on the municipal services review. We have a good number of edits to submit back to them, and some new data to incorporate. But it's looking good. I was really optimistic at how it looked coming back to us. A couple last things. Finances. Spencer mentioned the finance committee. We've got a few more things under revision right now, like salaries, safety station, Ivy Beautiful. Bob helped me out with our year-end accounting. We finished strong. Our revenue from the utility user tax was $1,015,000 was the final number. We'll get the exact in a bit, but that's where we're landing. So it's great. The budget looked good at the end. And then next is just a couple things, just to remind, we're still one-man team right now. What I can share, the personnel matter is, but Deborah's at least going to be out through mid-August. And then also I'm waiting on our credit card so that I can get our technology and furniture purchased so that we can work in the office. But until then, it's still remote work because our offices are not suitable for more than 1 or 2 people right now. And I wouldn't want to put our new employees in the current office. So we'll work on getting that set up once we get our credit card. And yeah, just a couple things coming up. The GAN limit, which was asked about last meeting, we'll see something about that this summer. And then the STEP grant scope of work and RFP on August 10th for you all to approve so that we can do our first RFP.
Excellent. Thank you for that report, Jonathan. Are there any questions from board members? Director Dashler.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. You know, you're used to being a one-person machine with IVCSD, but it is concerning to that with the personnel matter, which I obviously don't know what's going on, but that you are understaffed, and so I just wanted to acknowledge that in case there's things that can be pushed off until you're until Deborah is back in the office, because it seems like a lot is on your plate. As always, but you know, has been for the last, I don't know, five, 6 weeks.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's been extra bad. It's almost 7 weeks now, or almost 8, getting there. So it's a lot, but yeah, I'm just trying to focus on the things that are very important and need to happen, like the STEP grant, the community center / the new position, the training of the compost collective program manager, like those kinds of things that really need to happen, the budget. So,
Director Geis.
Yeah, we've been talking about the staff shortage and just trying to come up with, if anybody knows someone that's retired or available for 60 days, that's like a self-starter. Sorry about that. Maybe we could get somebody to step in and help Jonathan out. So I've been trying to tool around in my mind about who that might be, but I'll just keep asking around.
Are you volunteering, Bob?
No, I'm booked. I'm booked. and I can't come back as a paid director, and I don't have. I'm going on lots of places.
I appreciate you saying that, Bob, because that's actually what I was thinking. Is one, I was thinking, should board members step up to help fill in, which would probably be a disaster. But the second thing is just what you mentioned is there a way that we can get Jonathan some temporary support? So I will definitely mull that over.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Kirsten. I completely agree with both my colleagues, and I also just want to say for the board, I think it would be great if we could get a card or a little gift together for Deborah, just to let her know that we're thinking about her, that we appreciate her and care about her during this difficult time. I'll share one more thing, because when Kirsten mentioned roping in Bob to be a part of the district staff, it reminded me of Bob's mention of that first time that Ethan and I met with him and presented him with a plan. Well, it wasn't just a plan. We were trying to rope him in for just that type of assignment. And, he said, and I'm very glad that he did, because he found a way to contribute to the district that really was impactful, and also was instrumental in helping make the decision to officially select Jonathan as our leader on the staff side. So I'll just throw that out there. Good memories. Okay. Seeing no other comments on general manager's report. So now we're going to move into closed session, and District Ross, I'll leave it to you if you need to read those into the record.
There are 2 sessions that are listed for the closed session agenda. First one is conference with real property negotiators under Government Code section 54956.8, regards property at 970-976 Embarcadero Del Mar. Agency negotiators are Spencer Brandt, board president, Bob Geis, board member, now soon to be an unpaid consultant, Jonathan Abood, general manager, and Ross Trindle, district council negotiating parties. Isla Vista Community Services District in the county of Santa Barbara under negotiation of the price and terms of payment. And then the second item is also a conference with real property negotiators under the same government code provision. The property here is the compost facility at Estero Road, cul-de-sac in Isla Vista. Agency negotiators were as appointed tonight, myself and Jonathan. Negotiating parties are the IVCSD and the Isla Vista Recreation and Park District under negotiation of the price in terms of payment.
Thank you, Council. We're now going to move into closed session.
Okay, let me get people into the waiting room.
All right, we are reconvening. We are reconvening from closed session. Council, can you report out?
Yes, with respect to real property negotiations with the Park and Rec District on the compost pile, discussion was had in closed session on price in terms of payment. There's no reportable action. With respect to closed session real estate negotiations for 970 and 976, there were discussions in closed session with the board. Negotiation team received a direction, but there's no reportable action. And that concludes the report out of closed session.
Thank you, Council. We've come to the end of our agenda. Our next meeting date will be on, oh, I lost my agenda. Our next meeting date will take place on August 10th on Zoom. And it says at the community room. Are we set on that, Jonathan, that we can commit to that?
We'll be at the community room on August 10th.
Excellent. Well, I, for one, am so looking forward to seeing everyone on our board and everyone from the public in person and over Zoom for those that wish to continue to watch over Zoom. Just big shout out to Jay for getting that solution figured out for us. Yeah, it's going to be cool. All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Just before we take a vote, I just wanted to again thank the board for all the kind comments tonight about my terms. My wife was sits on the other side and she made her cry. So she was being proud of me with all the kind comments. So I'll move to adjourn.
I will second.
Thank you for that, Director Geis. Made by Geis, seconded by Freeman. Any board comment? Discussion? All right, let's do a roll call.
Director Brandt?
Yes.
Verity?
Yes.
Geis?
Yes.
Aguilar?
Yes.
Freeman?
Yes.
Dashler. Okay, no more roll calls for little votes like this. They're in person.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you next month.